The Hair Voyage podcast is here for beauty professionals, multi-passionate, entrepreneurial-minded, and interdisciplinary artists. We know you, we see you, and we love you. Hair Voyage is here to expand beauty education. We're sourcing information from different industries in order to support, inspire, and create community that cares for beauty professionals. We're here to propel you forward, integrating your passions and your desires into your beauty business. Thanks for tuning in to the Hair Voyage podcast. This episode, my guest Ashleah Walker is an energy healer, a hairdresser, and a teacher. You can learn more about Ashleah at Becoming Ceremony on Instagram. And there's a bit of static in this episode. We recorded it right at the very beginning of the pandemic, which I cannot believe seems like just yesterday and also centuries ago. But there's a bit of static, which is why I'm giving you the intro now, because we're about to jump right into the conversation. We're aligned with hairdressing. I just want to kind of hear about your journey, and maybe let's explain what a service experience could be like, or whatever you feel called to share about energy work and hairdressing is kind of what I would like to explore with you.
Sure. So there was a conversation I had with Mona a couple of months ago, and her and I were in agreement that about 5 years behind the chair is usually when we start to really develop our empathic and intuitive gifts, because we've gone through the time of touching so many people and being in their energy field and really coming into tune.
Gosh, sorry.
Okay. So when we start coming into tune, what does that mean? It means that you can intuit when a client wants to be quiet, when a client might need to share, when a client just needs a little extra, like love and care and attention, or they need to get something off their chest. Like, you just start honing that ability because you start tuning in. Mm-hmm. So in that way, that is where really we start to embody ourselves as healers. And because we are working with the crown chakra is at the crown of the head. And the crown chakra is the energy center of people's bodies that connects them to their divinity and their divine self. And touch is such a powerful way to connect to someone. And when somebody sits in our chair, it might be the only time of day that they are still, that they are really seen, that they are truly heard, and that they are touched. And it's such an incredible way to connect with somebody and facilitate the healing response. And when people are coming to us behind the chair, they are seeking a healing and a transformation, whether they are verbalizing it or not. But they are looking to feel better through the vehicle of a haircut or a hair color. And so that is where I began to realize that we are doing so much more than hair behind the chair. And I've been in hairdressing for 13 years, and I have been an empath my whole life and had intuitive gifts, but I wasn't really sure how to really use them in a way that worked well for me. What usually has worked in the past is that I was a sponge and I would absorb everybody's energy and go home at the end of the day feeling incredibly drained because I was not protecting myself and also just harnessing my energy in a right way. And I had become curious about crystals and essential oil, and meditation had been a part of my life for a very long time, but I wasn't really sure what to do with those things. They sounded very cool. But I began to get burned out behind the chair because I was working in a space that wasn't right for me. It was very busy. It was very buzzy. It felt like a conveyor belt of just like one client after another. I wasn't really able to get the connection that I wanted to facilitate with clients. And I had a couple of people talk to me about energy work. And I started to receive energy work, and I went in with a skeptical mind. And once I had my first energy session, I felt something immediately. I felt sparkles. I felt energy coursing through my body. I felt lightness. I felt warmth. I felt a lot of different sensations on different parts of my body. And I realized there was something to it. I woke up feeling more like myself. I felt more in my body, and I felt like quite literally a weight had been lifted. And it was because, the energy was flowing through me. And when our energy is in right alignment, we have an incredible sense of well-being. We feel very good physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, because we are an integrated being. And so when things don't feel right physically, it can affect our emotional, mental, and spiritual health, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So after receiving energy healing treatments, I began to want to study it. And I've gotten different certifications in Reiki and in healing touch and some shamanic training as well, and just different other witchy and woo-woo practices. And I realized I wanted to facilitate that with my clients, to go a little bit deeper. Most people's favorite moment behind the chair is the shampoo. And so I thought, why not be able to give them more of that? And so that was how I began to really embody ceremony. And ceremony is my brand. And I call it ceremony for many reasons, but it really was the ceremony that I gave to myself before I went to work behind the chair every day. And it was inner beauty and it was outer beauty. And those practices will change day to day depending on what I feel called that I need. So it might be meditation or journaling or a whole host of other tools. And it's also outer beauty. It's celebrating my outer beauty in a way that is not vain, but really an appreciation and love for myself. And so much of that is about intention. And color therapy is very real to me, and choosing the colors that I want to wear that day, and the energy that it's going to put out into the world, or the way that I do my hair, or the way that I apply my makeup. And I have always been able to see somebody's unique, divine beauty whenever they sit in my chair. And so I always feel my role is to really facilitate that for them to embody and appreciate themselves on an inner and an outer level.
Yeah.
And so a service with me, it changes, right? Like it's how it is just when you are behind the chair with someone. You will kind of read the energy and pivot as needed. Some people will want to go deeper, and some people just might want a little introduction to it. And I'll always ask them what their intention is. And the intention just might be what they want to see in the mirror in terms of their outer beauty. And sometimes it is like, what do you need to release? And a lot of times when I ask people what their intention is, particularly lately during this pandemic, it's, I just need to feel calm. I just need to release this anxiety. And so we can hold that intention throughout the entire service while I'm doing hair painting or while I'm facilitating the haircut. And then when I'm at the bowl, that gives me a read on what kind of energy work. And because as hairdressers, we have already tuned into energy, I can tune into that energy and know like where I need to place my hands, or where I just need to like keep them for a while to release. Really the two tenets of energy healing that all energy healing modalities have in common are two things. One is intention. And you really just have to have pure intention and come from a pure place to be of the highest good for that person. And the second one is follow the energy. So when it feels quite strong, you keep your hands there. And when it feels dull or it feels like it needs charging, then you send that intention there. And that's really it. And all you are doing when you are facilitating energy healing is facilitating. You are just jump starting somebody's natural healing ability.
I love that. That is a great, great description. Yeah. And I think that that takes away a lot of the fear where people like, I think a lot of people get afraid of energy work because they think that they're like giving power to somebody else or like giving their own power away when it's really quite the opposite.
Oh, yes, it is quite the opposite. Everybody has this ability. Everybody is their best self healer. I was walking to the park and speaking to my hair client, Hannah, and I was telling her during this time when we feel anxious, if you feel it in your chest, put your hand on your chest and breathe into it. You can send loving light and energy through your hands to your body. And I talked to her about, because her and I have both suffered from panic attacks in our past. And I was like, remember when we have a panic attack and our minds go, oh my gosh, I'm having a panic attack. And before you know it, our heartbeat goes faster and faster and we start sweating. And then all of a sudden we start getting more and more panicked. Or there's been times when we will feel a panic attack coming on and we say, I am calm, I am peaceful. We might do a belly breath or two and put our hand on our chest and breathe into it. And before you know it, your heartbeat slows down. That is just a quick example of how powerful your mind is, and how powerful your hands are, and how powerful you are as your own self-healer. You really can facilitate that. And so energy healers, are not reading into your mind. Like, I'm not a mind reader. I know people who have developed that ability, and everybody does have that ability if they choose to feel called to study that. But I'm not reading into anybody's mind. I'm not exactly as you say, it's not a handing over of power. Really, what I want to do is to help people understand how divine they are.
Yeah. That's beautiful. So let's just walk through, like, say somebody comes into the salon, and for someone that hasn't experienced it yet, I think a lot of times too, we can not know that we are wanting it. So maybe this would be a person that would come and they were just planning to get a hair service, and then they see that you have this available as a service does as well. How could they ask or be curious about it? And maybe like, what is a starting service going to be different than, I guess it's kind of a complicated question as I'm trying to ask it. I'm like, well, there's so many different stories because like you already said, each service is different. But I guess I kind of wanted to give like a visualization of someone that hasn't experienced this before, what it would look like.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So the service again would ask for the intention. And some people might say, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, the intention can just be, how do you want to feel? Do you need to let go of something? And they might say, I just want to feel joy, or I want to feel calm, or I'm really just buzzy at work. I have so much overwhelm going on. And I go, okay, great. Then I can focus on that during the shampoo, where we'll do the energy healing. And then we'll talk about the artistic part of the service, whether that's the haircut or a hair color. We're going to focus on that. Like, what do you need today with your haircut? And then we're going to, I will ask, all right, great. So if you want to feel calm, then maybe we'll put some lavender in the diffuser, and that will enhance the experience for calm.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we go to the shampoo bowl, then I just tell them to breathe and relax. I say, just be open. Let go of whatever expectations or thoughts of what you think this is supposed to feel or look like, and just relax.
Mm-hmm. It's so funny because I'm thinking about like sometimes when you hear about an energy or experience, or even when you're just saying like the words like just relax, right, to me right now, I can imagine how in the presence of like when we're actually having an experience, those simple words that I even now as you said them, I still feel I'm like it's a reminder and it's like a calling. So I still did have a reminder to myself and I did relax. But even more so when someone's in person with you and that just human intimacy. I've seen so many times where people, I think that they won't soften or they're hesitant about any type of connection. But then when someone says something so simple like that to them, all of a sudden they just melt or they open up. And I've seen people be so surprised, like, I don't know where this came from, or I don't know how that happened.
No, it's great though, right? It's like most good ideas are simple, and it's an invitation because don't you remember where, I'm sure you've had this behind the chair where you have clients where, you know, you can sense that they want to be quiet. And I'm a pretty quiet worker. Like I will engage with them, but then I get in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like way before I did energy work, and I would just be quiet. And I've had clients say like, wow, it was so nice because they would feel a responsibility to entertain me.
Yeah.
And I would tell them like, oh no, like this is your time. And so it's the same thing with energy work. It's just an invitation. It's like, you can let go. Like you don't have to facilitate anything for yourself or for me. Like you can just relax and just experience this. And however it's supposed to be is the way that it's going to be. And wherever the energy is supposed to flow is exactly where it's supposed to flow right now. And I've had clients, you know, because I've basically transitioned all of my clients from quote unquote normal clients to energy clients. And they've all remarked different things. And one of the things that they will frequently say is, wow, like I didn't realize how tight my jaw was or how my hands were clenched until you placed your hands on me. And I realized like, oh, wow, like I was holding on to something I didn't even realize I was holding on to.
Yeah. I watched RuPaul's masterclass a couple of days ago, and oh my gosh, it was so good. But he talks about finding a frequency, and that was one of the things that he asked. Is a question, a really interesting, excuse me, question to ask ourselves is, what do you not want to see? And I think that it's so that's why we need others, right? Is to even just hold the space and help us just shift our awareness so that we're like, oh, I didn't know that my hands are clenched. And then when someone else comes in to like assist you, even in the simplest way of just touching your shoulder or whatever, that's essentially what they're doing, is helping us see the things that we maybe didn't want to see or couldn't, or just
Yeah.
it is such a cool partnership.
It really is. It really is because we're dealing with the crown chakra. So even, you know, people don't do energy work at the bowl, but it's why so many of your clients think of you as their therapist. Like they wind up telling you things that they might not even tell their actual therapists. You know, like there's already that healing and that energy exchange going on. And so it's just an invitation to go a little bit deeper, you know, should you feel called to do so. And it's really wonderful to just watch that shift in them. You know, they walk away lighter and brighter even more.
Yeah. And I think it's for other people's like gauging it for them, it can be as subtle or as wild as you want, right? Like I think in a lot of references and this kind of the woo woo, even those words, it's like, are there going to be flames? Is there going to be magic potions? Like what's happening? And there can be
Like,
if you
that
want.
was what I spoke about on IGTV that I think I did yesterday, where, you know, I hadn't watched television in 2 years, and during the pandemic I went on Netflix and I started watching. There's a Goop series, and I hadn't seen it, but I've had a number of hair clients talk to me about the energy healing episode. And there's an actress named Julianne Hough, and they showcase an energy healer, and when she's getting energy healing treatments, like her body starts contorting and she's kind of flopping around like a fish out of water. And so it's great because it's giving exposure to energy healing, but of course it's also it's also sparking a discussion where people are like, is that going to happen? And I'm like, yes, it can happen. It's happened to me during energy healing treatments, but is that the way that my own energy healing treatments began? Absolutely not. Like when I first started receiving energy healing treatments, it was very calm. It was very soothing. I felt sensations. I felt warmth, and it's only as I've gone deeper into energy healing treatments that I've started getting more and more physical sensations, because what energy healing does is it starts communicating to your DNA on a cellular level to realign that energetic flow. And so once your channels start opening and you start getting that flow more and more, then that's when, those physical, shakes and twitches and stuff start happening more and more. But like, are flames going to start happening? Or are you going to start feeling out of control of your body? Absolutely not. It's really, the work does deepen if you continue to get energy healing treatments. But for most people, it's not that spasmic, ecstatic experience.
Yeah. I'm super passionate about behavioral health, and I love to think about how these two very different worlds, but kind of the same worlds at the same time, how they make so much sense to me, and how I like learned about each of these. Energy healing was one like segment of my life, and then behavioral health has always been it just entered in different ways, but then I would like learn about the same type of information and in both of those chapters. And even something simple as just like, we know that babies need to be held and things like that, and we think of that as like, oh, that's a fact, and then but that's energy work, and so I think like the hype around the phrase energy work and exactly what you just described of like, it's the same with behavioral health. If you aren't listening to your body, and your symptoms or for whatever your body is trying to express will start getting louder and louder, or bigger and bigger, or more dramatic, so that you are able to get that information in whatever ways. It could be a rash, it could be a mental health thing, it could be all kinds of stuff. And yes. But then the same thing is in energy work, I think, too, right? Like if you're open to it, it can just be a little thing, or maybe you need a really big, maybe to really hear what your body's receiving or wanting to express, or to be able to see what it is that you want to work through. Maybe you do need a loud expression. So even in that sense, I feel like we're still in charge of our own energy healing experience. And it's not that you can set the intention that I want this to be gentle.
Yes, you can absolutely set the intention that you want it to be gentle, and then it will be gentle. Yeah. And like, I love energy work because, of course, like energy is in everything and it's everywhere. And so your energy has such a profound impact on the way that you move and live in the world. And we have experienced a wellness awakening, and holistic medicine is becoming more and more accepted in the world, and particularly us Westerners who are always slow to the uptake, right? Mm-hmm. But it's the reason why people are seeking out naturopathic doctors in addition to traditional medical doctors. It's why people are now receiving acupuncture, and acupuncture is now beginning to be covered by health insurance. Acupuncture deals with the meridians and energy healing deals with the chakras, but it's still the same idea of energy. And so what I wanted to do was level the playing field and basically introduce holistic medicine through the vehicle of a haircut service. I wanted to offer this to everybody. And not just like, the top 10% that can afford, out of pocket holistic medicine.
Right. Yeah, because it can be so, yeah. And it doesn't have to be an extreme experience. So I love that it can just be integrated into these smaller parts of our day. Like I like how you were describing how your ritual was just kind of like your, a morning routine, and then it just kept growing, and I really like that. What exactly was your routine when you first started?
Well, when I first started, I got sober 14 years ago, and through getting sober, they talked about how you had to develop a relationship with a higher power. And that's not religion. That is just a power greater than yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
that can be nature. It can be religious. It can be, what you call source. It can be God. It can be whatever. And they talked about the importance of prayer and meditation. And so it began with meditation, which was very uncomfortable for me in the beginning because I hadn't ever done it. And I realized when I tried to sit, and I set my timer for literally 2 minutes because that was as much as I could stand to try to be quiet. And I realized how noisy my brain was. Like there were so many feelings, there was thoughts, there was a list of things to do that just kept, coming at me. And then I learned that I could just let go of the judgment, because my addiction was so much to, it really wasn't drugs and alcohol. It was this addiction to hating myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to learn, even through meditation and prayer, to let that go. And so when a thought or a feeling came, I could just acknowledge that it was a thought or a feeling and then let it go, and not control the meditation or be a perfectionist about the meditation. Just let it be and let it flow the exact way that it was supposed to. So it started with meditation, and then it started with journaling. And I have a journalism degree and a psychology degree, and journaling was very helpful for me to set an intention. And it also started with gratitude lists. I realized that I could wake up in the morning and I could say, today is going to be a wonderful day. And
Cool.
if I set that intention, then today was going to be a wonderful day. And I could have gratitude for each and every person who was on my book. If I had gaps of slow time throughout my book, I could say, what do I want to do with this time? Oh, look, this is like unscheduled free time. Like, what am I going to do with this time? Okay, great. I can decide that I'm going to practice on a mannequin, or I was going to go on Instagram and build my media following. I could do whatever I wanted to at that time, or I could actually have a lunch break and be slow and intentional about the way that I was going to nourish myself with food. I believe in food as medicine. And then as the work got deeper, of course, like the work gets deeper, right? So then you start adding like little bits here and there. And I had somebody who talked to me a couple of years ago, maybe about 7 years ago, about her use of essential oil. And when she had like a really anxious client come to her, then she just doused herself in lavender. And I began doing that and realizing that my clients were like, wow, like you smell incredible. Like, I just feel so calm now. And I was like, oh my gosh, I felt like a modern day witch. I was like, oh, wow, it's so cool. Um, but recognizing the power of scent and how that could actually harness and shift the energy.
Yeah, scent is so huge for me. I even just like I love oils, but even perfume, just having like, I think it's just like it identifies, um well, it's a tool, right, that we use that can identify like, I am here, this is my essence, this is what I've chosen. And to like, and also it helps other people and their awareness. So when you enter a room and you smell, people are aware of another aspect of you that you've intentionally put on. So I think it's just such a cool tool. But I'm so glad that you shared that with us, because I think that is a really interesting and challenging part of our industry, where focusing on beauty and being, this conduit of energy between people that are focusing on beauty. And I think it's so strange, because the client that comes in and then goes, like, they spend that short amount of time focusing on beauty, and then they're back into their life and not so maybe as aware that they're focusing on it. Of course, we're all bombarded with the media and things on social media. We don't even really realize how much we're intaking about beauty and appearance. And even just when you're walking down the street and you pass a store, there's just message after message. But I think it's really interesting that there's so much of that journey as a stylist, because you are doing that with each person every day, all the time. And then even when you leave the house, we're still thinking, or when you leave the salon and the house, we're still thinking about, that's our art form. That's what we're focused on. And I recently went on a journey with another stylist friend. We went on a hair voyage journey. We went to Tokyo and Thailand for this specific trip. And it was so incredible how even a different culture's beauty expectations can influence you, even when they're not your culture, or like just by passing through there and being who we were, stylists, the things that we observed and the things that we saw, we were thinking of them through the lens of a stylist. And so we paid attention to people's haircuts, we paid attention to what they wear, we were looking at how they decorated and design oriented things. And it's just so amazing how powerful that is. So I think it's such a huge thing that I think a lot more people could be aware of how that's affecting them. And I would love to hear how your practices of kind of releasing those stories, and maybe, obviously your ritual probably kind of, even beginning your day, the rituals help prepare you for that, to stay in your center. But are there releasing rituals, or how do you kind of protect that or cleanse that as well?
Yeah, so I decided that when I was going to actually form ceremony and actually go out and, start with Instagram and a website, that I was like not going to be, this like super Zen woman who was like in all white and like no makeup or yoga pants. I was like, no, like that's not who I am. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's just not like, and through my own journey, yes. Like, have I like dressed a certain way because I thought it was what was expected of me? Absolutely. Have I done my hair or makeup in a certain way in the past because I thought that's how I should look? Absolutely. But you know what? Like, I embody being beautiful now, and I do it because it fucking pleases me. It's not for anybody else. And so I am not somebody who is like, I'm not doing my hair. I'm not going to put on, or I'm not going to dress in the way that I want to dress. Like, I do these things because it pleases me. And when it's in that way, then it's in correct energetic alignment. I'm somebody who, I get lashes. I fucking love lashes. Like, my eyes look cute, and like they make me feel beautiful, and I don't have to put on as much makeup, and I'm like, this is awesome. And like,
it really is crazy how that works.
Wear purple tutu when I do energy healing workshops, because it just makes me feel really playful and childlike, and it's a unique expression of who I am. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think we're trying to do it because we think it's going to get us the right partner, or we think it's going to get us acceptance in the workplace, or, we think we're supposed to be hypersexual because it's, what it means to be a woman. I think whatever it means for you and your divine, authentic beauty, that's the right answer. It's just that we are not tapping into our intuition and we think we're supposed to be something else. But really, what we're supposed to be is who we are. That's all that was ever required. Be who you are. That was all that was ever needed. And so if it is wearing red, if it is having, really wild hair, if it's, not wearing makeup, if it's whatever that is, whatever you feel called to do, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so much of that has been the inner work. So that's where I do mirror gazing. That's where I put my hand on my heart and I look at myself in the morning and I say, I accept you. I
Mm-hmm.
accept myself. I accept myself. I accept myself. I look at every single piece of myself and I accept myself. And in that way, I actually feel better looking than I ever have in my whole life. You know, I no
Wow.
longer think, oh man, I wish I was 25 and I wish that I could have appreciated being 25. I actually don't.
Wow. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
such a cool way to move through life. And yeah, you're absolutely stunning. And but the power of being able to feel that presence in whatever age you are, whatever part of life is going to you.
Yeah,
That's
because we've all met people where they look really beautiful on the outside, and then maybe they'll say something or they'll act a certain way, and we're like, oh, not as much. Because
yeah.
really, everyone is uniquely beautiful. And it's so important to recognize that what makes somebody beautiful is an energy about them. It's so beyond what's just on the outside.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so cool. It is freedom, and I think like I was just thinking, well, what is beauty starts with a question, and you have to, because we are so all uniquely beautiful, if we were to bring those questions to the surface and find out about ourselves, that's essentially the process of curating energy work and beauty and hairdressing and makeup. It's a curation of our inner questions.
Yeah, I mean, I've had clients who, you know, because of the work that I do, then they're almost like, oh, like, what are your feelings about Botox? And I'm like, is it going to make you feel good? Great.
Mm-hmm.
If it's about you, then get Botox. You know, like I'm not somebody who is just like, oh, you can't do that, or I judge that. Like, so much of this is about letting go of the self-judgment, because really at the heart of, you know, you speak about behavioral like health studies, or, you know, or if it's hair, if it's energy healing, like really at the heart of what we do is love, is teaching people how to love themselves purely and unconditionally.
Right. No big deal. Just
No
light
big
work.
deal.
Yeah.
But at the heart of it is intention, you know, and so if you have a pure intention, you know, and that's really, you know, the work that we get to do on ourselves as well as with others, you know, because the healing begins at home. So we can only raise people to the vibration that we are at. And so in that way, it compels us all to continue to do the work.